Hi everybody, this is Yosarium from BoyMeetsPhone.com, and this is a review of the Boost Mobile Moto G by Motorola. This is currently available on Boost Mobile for $130 with no contract. I'm going to start off with taking a hardware tour. Up front we have a 4.5-inch IPS panel at a resolution of 1280 by 720. This has the same resolution as the Moto X, this phone's bigger brother, but is slightly smaller because the Moto X has a 4.7-inch display. Because it is smaller, this does have a higher pixel density, so text will actually look slightly sharper on this device when compared to the Moto X. Above the display, we have our earpiece grill. On this side, we have our ambient light and proximity sensor. Right here, right about there, is the LED status light, and then we have a VGA front-facing camera. On this side of the device, we have our power and screen lock button. Both stick out far enough that finding just by feel is not an issue. So both offer great feedback and aren't loose or anything, so that's nice. This is a well-built device. Motorola does do a good job with its build quality. There's nothing on this side of the device. Up top we have a 3.5mm headphone jack, as well as a noise cancellation mic. Below, on the bottom, we have the micro USB port. Wait for that to come into focus. There's a micro USB port in the main microphone. And to take a look at the back of the device, you'll find the speaker grill, a 5-megapixel autofocus camera, and a single LED flash. The build quality on this phone is quite nice. It does have a good weight to it. It's a very ergonomically shaped device, just like the Moto X, so it feels really nice in the hand. I will have to say that if you are going to be wearing gloves with this device, you're going to want to make sure that you consider investing in a grip cover. The back cover on this device is removable. Motorola does sell several different colors and types of covers for this device, including the grip cover I mentioned, and a flip cover, which offers screen protection. It does take a little bit to get the back cover off, but that's a good thing, because that means that it's not going to just randomly fall off. This is a thin plastic back. This have some bend to it. And it has a semi-soft touch coating on the back, so it's not as grippy as I would personally like, and because of that, with gloves on, this device turns into basically a wet bar soap. So it's very slippery in the hands. So I would definitely consider getting a slip cover or something, grip cover or something, to make sure that holding this device while wearing gloves is not going to be an issue. The back, you do not have the ability to remove the battery. It is enclosed in the device. The only thing removing the back allows you to do is remove the back and switch it. It has a 2,700 milliamp hour battery, and it also does not have any expandable storage slots. You can see it actually has remnants of the SIM card slot from the GSM model right there, just by that little imprint. So that you can tell that they use basically the same parts, except they just filled it in there. So you do still have the remnants of the SIM card slot. But this does not have a SD card slot, neither does the GSM version, so there is no way to expand the storage on this device. Like I mentioned, this does have a IPS panel, so IPS panels are known for their viewing angles, and this display is no exception to that. This does have excellent viewing angles. Tell that don't see much of change. You see a reflection change, but you don't see any changing and losing any of the fidelity of the colors when you're switching views. So it does hold up pretty well at off-angled viewing. And also color reproduction is quite nice on this display. This is hands down the best display I've seen, especially at for a device at this price point. When I first got the Moto G into review, it was running Android 4.3 Jelly Bean. It wasn't until a few days ago that I actually got the Android 4.2 KitKat update. KitKat doesn't bring a lot of visual changes to the device. There's a few tweaks here and there. And also, this build didn't seem to bring some of the features that I would have liked to see from from KitKat to the Moto G. Taking a look at the UI, you have the normal lock screen, you have the stock Android lock screen, which means you have the lock screen widgets. Let's scroll all the way to this end to add more. And scrolling, go back to the lock screen. This way will bring you to the camera app. You have 5 home panels. You cannot remove any home panels or switch them around, anything like that. Pinching in will do nothing. So again, stock Android, no tweaks by Motorola on this device, at least from the UI perspective. Pressing and holding will bring up your options to change wallpaper. This also does not have Boost ID. You do have ID wallpaper, which is just the Boost Mobile wallpaper, but you won't have Boost ID where it downloads those different packs with different widgets and wallpapers and such. So personally, I like the fact that that's not there. It's less things taking up space on the device, and we'll get into later about why that's a really good thing. You have your regular pull down notification, so you can swipe to dismiss. You can use 2 fingers or 1 finger to expand and bring back in notifications. Pressing this icon right here will bring you into your settings. Also, if you swipe down with 2 fingers, will bring you into your quick settings. And this will allow you to change the brightness, jump into the setting menu, turn Wi-Fi on and off, turn 3G on and off, see your battery status, turn airplane mode on and off, and also turn Bluetooth and location service on and off. Pressing and holding will toggle these different things, and just tapping on it will bring you into the settings. Going into the app drawer, you can see one of the changes from Jelly Bean to KitKat is that you have white instead of blue on your icons and your font in the app drawer, and also in the notification. Also in the notification, you may have noticed that some of the icons are actually just slightly different between Android 4.3 and 4.4. But as far as apps go from Boost Mobile and Motorola, there's actually not too many on board, and that's a great thing. Sprint has done has made it a really strong effort in not putting too much bloatware on the devices, because people didn't like that, and they really listened. And there's 3 apps on board from Boost Mobile, and press and hold. This is Boost Music. If you want to, you can uninstall that app. So all the apps on here are uninstallable from Boost Mobile, which is really nice to see. So if you don't really want to use it, you can get rid of it and free up that space. But from Boost Mobile, you have AirG Chat, Boost Music, and Boost Zone, which is for getting information and checking accounts, stuff like that. From Motorola, you have Moto Assist, which automates certain services on your device. Mainly if you're in a meeting, it will switch you into a meeting mode where you can automatically either go into silent, or send a auto reply to anybody sending you a message that you're in a meeting and that you'll get back to them as soon as you're out. And you also have sleep mode, which will, once you set the time you want it to operate at, will silence your device, and so you don't get disturbed by notifications while you're trying to sleep. So that's nice to see. Also from Motorola, you have Help, which is their new name for Moto Care. When I first got this device, it was listed as Moto Care. So if you have any issues with the device, they can try to assist you. And also, if you have any it offers customization options and stuff like that. So if you have, it gives you suggestions on how to make the device a little bit better from their perspective. There's also Motorola Migrate, which is good for switching over from a different device, such as another Android device or an iPhone, to this phone. Other than that, you get the stock Android apps and whatever else you decide you want to download on it. There's also Next Radio that does come on board on it, because this does have a FM radio. You can see the stock FM radio there. Google, sorry, it's no longer owned by Google. Motorola did make some changes in the gallery app. Go into the gallery. It's not the stock gallery. I have to say I do like how the gallery looks. You have the little icon showing when certain area was taken. So this is January, and right here is February's pictures. So that's nice to be able to go through and see things like that. See it in a timeline view or in your albums view. So you can see your screenshots, pictures you've taken, Instagram, things you've downloaded. You can see in the timeline view like it was in. And they also tweaked the camera application. We'll get into that a little bit later. One of the features from KitKat that I was a little bit disappointed not to see was the ability to call local businesses from your dialer. If you jump into the phone dialer, you're not going to be able to search through local businesses like you would on, say, a Nexus build of KitKat. So that's a little bit sad not to see that, especially when this is pretty much a stock Android device. Google Drive does come on board, and that has to do with the storage issue on this device. It's kind of a trade-off for the fact that it does not have much onboard storage. This device is limited to 8 gigs of onboard storage. Well, it has 8. This is the 8 gig model of the Moto G, and there's only 5.52 gigabytes free. So go into the settings to show you this. Go into storage. As you can see, you have 5.52 gigabytes of total storage on this device, and that's got to be you have to try to use that space for any music you save on this device, any photos you take, any videos you take. So if you're trying to store music offline, or a video or a movie, a TV show offline, you have to take that into consideration, that this device does not have much storage. Google Drive does allow you to get 50 gigs of extra storage free for 2 years for purchasing the Moto G. As kind of a trade-off. If you're willing to move over photos and videos to the cloud storage drive, it can kind of work, but if you don't want to have to constantly micromanage your memory, which if you happen to be app crazy or like to play with a lot of apps, or happen to be a heavy gamer, this is definitely not going to be the device for you, just for that fact alone, that you're going to have to micromanage your memory to death. Going back into the settings, see the two main tweaks that Motorola made to this device is you have Motorola Privacy and Motorola Device ID. Privacy allows you to toggle off if you want anonymous data to be sent to Motorola about usage to help improve the device, and also disable Moto Care so they won't have access to your device to help you out with any issues. And then there's Device ID, which allows you to use Moto Care and also to track this device if it's lost via the website. So those are the main tweaks that Motorola made to this device. You're not going to find anything like touchless controls because of the processor inside, and we'll get into that a little bit later. You do have in display the ability to screencast, which is a feature from KitKat. So if you're using Miracast technology, like a Miracast dongle or the push to TV box, and you have it on, you will be able to access that in the settings that will show up. But other than that, you're not going to find much non-stock about this device. It is pretty much stock, with the exception of the few tweaks that I showed you, and the fact that you're not able to dial local businesses from the dialer, or search local businesses to call from the dialer, which again is a little bit disappointing to me. When it comes to typing on the Moto G, I have no complaints. It is using the stock Android keyboard, which, due to its design, offers a comfortable experience while typing in both portrait and landscape mode. You also have the ability to trace, to write words, or you can also use Google's voice input, which will transcribe what you are saying while you are saying it. So overall, I'm pleased with the typing experience out of the box with the Moto G. The Moto G is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 chipset, and that consists of a 1.2 GHz quad-core Cortex A7 CPU, Adreno 305 GPU, and 1 gig of RAM with 882 megabytes of that available for the device to use. This is currently running Android 4.4 KitKat. When I first got the device, it was running 4.3 Jelly Bean. One of the plus sides of KitKat is the fact that it's made to run on devices with not as much RAM as a high-end device. This does have 1 gig, a little under 1 gig of RAM, which is more than you'd find in your normal budget device, but not as much you're going to find in a higher-end phone. I didn't find any real changes in between the performance when it was running on Jelly Bean and KitKat. Found that no matter what, it was running quite smoothly. Didn't have any issues with lag or stutter or freezing up or anything like that. The camera did crash every once in a while, but I blame that more on the camera. And actually, once it was updated by Motorola, I found that issue disappeared. I did play games on it. You see, I have Dead Trigger 2 loaded on this device, and it played that with no issues. This device is the 8 gig version, so you only have 5.52 gigabytes of internal storage and with no way to expand it. You do get 50 gigs of cloud storage from Google Drive for 2 years for free. By having this device, you have to activate that within 2 weeks of purchasing it, though. With that said, if you are not into micromanaging your internal storage, you don't want to have to constantly worry about if the app you're going to download is going to actually fit on your device, then this is not going to be the device for you. This is for someone that's going to either be willing to make that sacrifice due to the cost and the overall quality of this phone, or someone that doesn't really do much on their phone in the first place. You can easily find that your memory would be filled up between movies and music and apps and taking photos and videos. That's why they do offer the 50 gigs of cloud storage. But if you're not into micromanaging your memory, do not get this device. The Moto G is running on Sprint's 3G network. This is not a 4G LTE device, so that you're gonna have to take that into consideration. So don't expect much from the data speeds. However, I'm in Central Mass, and I found that the data speeds were actually quite impressive, especially from my previous experiences with Sprint's 3G network. I was able to get over 2 megabytes per second down and slightly over 1 megabytes per second up on average, which is again quite impressive for Sprint's 3G network, especially given my past experience with it. Inside the Moto G is a 2070 milliamp hour battery, and battery life on this device has not been bad at all. I've been able to get through a day with moderate use with no issues. Currently, I'm pretty sure this device has been on for almost 2 days, and this has been really light usage. Actually, 3 days now. Let me zoom in there. This has been basically letting it rest. It's been receiving notifications from Twitter, Facebook, 2 email accounts linked to it, but even with that on 3G, it's still been on for 3 days, and it's about 50% down now. With moderate usage, I was able to get a little bit over a day of battery life out of this device before having to charge it. So battery life has not been an issue at all with this device. That's one of the plus sides of having a 3G device. You don't have the strain of it trying to gather 4G signal, or the strain that 4G signal and a 4G antenna would have on the device. Taking a look at the camera on the Moto G, You can't open it by twisting the device twice like on the Moto X, so you do have to use the lock screen to jump into the camera. Still, it's fairly quick to jump into the camera. The layout is pretty much exactly the same as you would find on the Moto X, with the button to switch from taking stills to video in this corner right here, and the button to switch from the rear-facing 5 megapixel camera to the front-facing VGA camera right there. To access your controls, you have to swipe over from the side. As far as controls go, you have your HDR options. You have auto, on or off. Auto will let the phone decide when it's best to take a HDR shot and when it's best not to. You have your flash options, which again are on, auto, or off. You have touch to focus and exposure controls, which are right here. Tapping off, which I just did, will, as soon as you tap on the display, it'll actually just use the center to focus and take the shot. When you have it on, you'll have the option of, bring these away, dragging the focus marker around to change not only the focus but the exposure of the shot. So let me move over to where it's a little bit more light. You can see that will change the exposure and the focus on that shot. But again, just tapping on that area will take the shot. You have slow motion video, which will, once you turn on, will start recording slow motion video as soon as you hit the video recording button. You have panoramic shot, which will allow you to take a sweeping panoramic shot using the device. Once you have that set, any shot you take will automatically start trying to do a panoramic shot. And of course I'm hitting stop and it's not stopping. Let's hit back. And jump back into the camera. Sorry about that. You have your geo tagging on and off, so to geotag your photos. And this right here is the only setting that you have to change anything about the image size, and that is just the aspect ratio. Right now it's set at 16:9 aspect ratio. The other option is the standard 4:3 aspect ratio. And lastly, you have the option for the shutter sound. To zoom in while recording and while taking a shot, just take your finger and drag up on the display. And this also works when you are video recording. You can also take burst mode by just pressing and holding. We'll take several shots in succession. The control layout is okay to me, except for the fact that the on-screen buttons are always there. The times that comes a real issue is if you flip the device over this way, and now your controls are over on this side, which means if you want to swipe to get into the settings, you risk swiping into getting into Google Now. I've done that several times. So you gotta be really careful where you're swiping when you're holding the device like this. It would have been nice if they had thought to make the on-screen control buttons hidden when you're in the camera, so you had to press them twice so they would actually appear, so you won't accidentally jump to Google Now when you're trying to get a shot of your kid or something like that. But it is what it is. So if you are going to take photos with this device, you're going to need to be mindful of that. Then when you get into the settings, you're going to want to make sure that you hold the device like this, so that way your settings are always on this side and away from the Android control, the hotkeys right here, the standard home and back and multi tasking key right there, because that will get annoying, and trust me, it did. As far as image quality goes on this device, I found that it was okay. It does a good job creating depth of field. Colors are a little bit cold for my liking. It's a bit cooler than I would have liked to see. Focus is a little bit soft. Pictures tend to be a little bit more noisy, a little bit grainy at times, especially landscape photos. I found that good amount of my landscape photos, and while I was taking a lot of snowy landscape photos, came out a little bit more grainy than I would have liked to see. But overall, I found that the quality was okay. As far as video quality goes, just by tapping on the video icon, you start recording your video. And again, like I said, you can zoom in while recording. And it also refocuses, and it refocuses rather quickly, so that's nice to see. You can take photos while recording by just tapping on the display. And it is going to be taken at the resolution of the video, and this is not a full high-def video recording device. It does record at 720p, so it's going to be taking 1280 by 720 photos, not full 5 megapixel photos. So keep that in mind when you're taking photos while recording. Video recording on this device, quality-wise, has turned out to be not bad at all. Could have been a little bit better. Again, still ran into some of the same issues with artifacts and a little bit blurriness. Changing focus was rather quick on it. Exposure levels were good. Colors were a little bit cool for my liking. So same issues you would run into on the camera. So overall, it was good, but not the greatest thing in the world. But for a device at this price point, it is a really nice camera. For a device in general, it's just okay. The Moto G, like many other miniature versions of higher-end devices, is a story of balancing. When you create a miniature version of a very popular high-end device, you have to balance out keeping what's good about that device and getting rid of things that can keep the price point down, making it more accessible to every consumer. And that was the goal with the Moto G. The Moto G was originally sought out to be a device that offered some of the features of the Moto X at a lower price point. But what it ends up being is a device that looks kind of like the Moto X at a different price point. You miss out on a lot of the key features that make the Moto X really cool. I mean, things you would expect to be gone, things like the active display, switching out the AMOLED panel for the IPS panel, understandable, and I actually do like the IPS panel on this device. Touchless control, I can kind of understand, especially when you're using a totally different chipset, whereas the Moto X uses the X8 computing system. This uses a off-the-shelf Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 chipset, so I can understand the not having the touchless control. But things like the ability to quickly launch the camera by flicking the device, I'm not too sure why that was omitted from this phone. At the end of the day, what you get is a good device that asks you to make a lot of sacrifices. One of the major ones, and the one I find the hardest to deal with, is the amount of space on this device. It only being 8 gigs and only having 5.52 gigs of that available to you is a little bit hard to swallow for me. I personally don't know if I could deal with constantly having to micromanage my memory, especially when I'm having that issue with devices with 16 gigs of memory. I couldn't imagine having to try to do that with device with 8 gigs and less than that available to me. But if you're willing to put the work in to micromanage your memory, and you're willing to deal with the 3G, which honestly I'm not quite sure what Sprint's done with the network, or if it's just this device. The speeds on this device did not bother me whatsoever. I found that it was fast enough for everything I was doing. So that is as minor as a thing as possible, personal opinion. And if you have good 3G service with Sprint in your area, you're going to find also that's a minor issue with this device. If you're willing to deal with things like that, what you're getting is a really good device, especially at this price point. You'll be hard-pressed to find a better phone for $130. Something with as nice as the display as this, as quickly updated and good support as you would find on this device. Motorola has done a good job getting out updates, especially since it's moved a lot of its core apps to the App Store for updates, so you're getting things quicker than you usually would. You don't have to update the whole OS to get a camera improvement or anything like that. So at this price point, you'll be hard-pressed to find a better device if you're willing to deal with the sacrifices you have to make. For my full written in-depth review on this device and plenty of others, head over to the site boymeetsphone.com. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and found it informative, and to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're on Facebook, make sure to like the Boy Meets Phone Facebook page, and you can also follow me on Twitter and Google+. So this has been Yosarian from boymeetsphone.com. Thanks for watching.